Hi everyone, this is Amy from Alpha Advisors. We have a great guest from Hult International Business School. She is Vice President of Career and Alumni Relation at Hult International Business School. And Hult, we have a number of students who have been enrolled in Hult, and they are so successful in their career after graduation. And you should want to know why they are so well at career after graduation. So today we will dive into the Hult careers and outcomes and tips to get a job offer at US. Hult alumni has get offer from prestigious company at US such as Goldman Sachs, McKinsey, GAFA, and some accounting firm like Big Four. So we want to know the tips to get the job offer at US successfully. And today we have an amazing guest from Hult International Business School, Catherine. She is Vice President of Career and Alumni Relation at Hult International Business School. So Catherine, thank you for your time today. And could you start your presentation?
Great. Thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here today to speak with you. Just a little bit of my background. I've been at Hult for 12 years. I started pretty much when the school started in the San Francisco campus, when we had 200 students there. And now, as you know, we have thousands of students across the world. I am responsible for all of the career coaching, the career teaching, the corporate relations strategy, and then we also work with our alumni after you graduate. So at this point, I have a global team that works on my behalf with you across the world. And one of the big advantages of Hult is that those people are available to you wherever you are. So we really focus on what you need to get a job. And I'm super proud of what we've done. We have fantastic stats, and I'm really pleased that you've invited me today to talk about how our students have been so successful. So I wanted to just give you the context. At the beginning, 100% of our students make a change of some sort. Most often, they want to change country. Many change their industry. Some of them change their job. Some of the very best students change all three at once. It's called a triple jump. It's a difficult thing to do. But some of the students I will talk about today have done that. So we know that you are coming to us for a new job, a new country, a new industry, and we're here to support you. Last year, which was a COVID year, about half of the students stayed in the US. So the COVID year, this number is lower than it usually is. I usually see something more in the 60% plus range. Many students were not in the US long enough to get a visa due to the COVID hybrid, the way we taught last year. So it's a bit low, but we are low from my perspective. It may not be low from yours, but 50 to 60% of our students typically stay in the US. And we have a playbook, a strategy that helps students who want to stay to achieve that. Now, not everybody wants to stay, and we respect that. So whichever way you want to go, if you want to go home, if you want to go to another country, if you want to work in the US, we're here to support you. We work with a wide range of employers. In this year, there were 326, so hiring was a bit more concentrated. I've seen up to 450 employers in a year, so it really just depends on market demand and where students are going to end up, how many countries are on the list, and we have a number of repeat employers, which I will share with you in just a moment. It's really interesting that so many of our MBAs, that's 91%, changed industry. So that means somebody who was in financial services went into tech, or somebody that was in healthcare went into consulting. That's a really big change, and it's a very common one for our students. Here are some of our top global employers. So these are employers that would hire across San Francisco, Boston, New York, London, and Dubai. So they're hiring in all markets. Depending on the region, we may see more of one employer or another. So Amazon is a big employer in the US. Deutsche Bank, interesting, that's a German bank. They're a big employer in the US. Goldman Sachs, Google, and Tesla also are more often seen in the US. The consulting firms like McKinsey, PwC, Deloitte, they're spread over all of our campuses. And then Microsoft, often I see them in the US. So it's a really great group of employers. We're really proud of them. But as you saw in the previous slide, we have 326 employers. So there are many more. And I think the trick and the insight we have for you about the US market is to choose an employer that needs you and your skills. So think about yourself and who needs you the most. And that is often the best way to have success here. So I was in strategy before. I like to talk about my students as product me, figure out, and we will help you. We're here to support you. Strategize, where would an employer need you? So who needs your skills the most? And that is usually the place that will pay the most for you. So reverse engineer your job search and find that sweet spot in the market. It can be one of these companies, but please be open-minded, because you might make more money at a company that's not on this list. And so that's really a choice that you need to make when you're laying out your strategy. So here are the rates. So our MBAs did very well last year. 94% is actually extraordinary, comparable to what we see at the elite Ivy schools. 90% of our students, master's students, so that would be like a Master of International Business, were employed after graduation. And because these students are so early in their career, often sometimes they have no experience, they have fewer skills, and that's why skills and experience from the past. That's why I see a slightly lower employment rate for them. Because again, remember, an employer is hiring you to solve a business problem. The more skills you have, the more you can do for the employer, the higher our employment rate is going to be. So Emmy was saying, what's the trick? Why is our employment rate so high? There's really two things. One is the program is fantastic. You get the skills that employers want. We focus on that intently. So you have to have the skills. And then my team is fantastic. I'm really proud of them. We're here to support you. We support you. You make the plan. So we are here to help you achieve what you want to do. And that's why it's so important to be clear, to lay out a strategy, to come prepared to go out and achieve your vision. So I'm going to talk a bit more about what that is. Out of respect for my alumni, I'm not going to share their names. I'm going to talk generically about people that I know and people that I have worked with. I'm going to talk about a student I met in actually 2017 on his second day on campus. This student came from your country, came to Hult, and he wanted to be a business analyst. And on his second day of school, he came to me, he found me on the San Francisco campus, and he said, I am going to be a business analyst. And I was like, okay, let's go for it. Tell me more. And he started working on that objective from the beginning. He went on to he was a stellar student in the MIB. Then he did the MBAN, which is the Master of Business Analytics. After the program, or really at the end of the program, he decided to take a job via contract agency. So there are many contract agencies in the US who bring talent to big employers. More than half of the jobs in Silicon Valley go through this type of company, and they represent you to these very big tech organizations. And he decided he wanted to go that way. So he worked through this agency for big tech. And when I say big tech, those are the names that you know so well from global technology company. It would be an Amazon, a Microsoft, a Google, a Facebook, all of the very large tech companies are in that category. So he wanted to be in tech, and he took a contract in analytics. He was outstanding. So again, this student focused on being great from the beginning. He was outstanding. He so impressed his employer that they said, we want you full-time and we want to keep you. And that employer sponsored him, which is what many of our students aspire to achieve. So he has received his sponsorship. He does live and work in Silicon Valley today, and he has absolutely fantastic career. And when you're on campus, he does visit our campuses. I hope that you will have the opportunity to meet him. He's a very inspiring, ambitious, really successful person, and he does come to help our students. So when you're in San Francisco, he will be there. Watch for the notes on when he's there. So what exactly did this student do? Because this is a great example of a playbook. So from the beginning, he knew that to get a job in big tech, he had to be very expert. So he was a very good student. He focused on skill development. So he really focused on going to class, achieving work, all of the objectives in the class. He was a good student who came out with skills and competencies, especially in the MBAN, because you will be tested by your employer before they interview you. So you have to be able to show your skills. That is what the Hult program is all about. And Shimpe and his team can tell you more about how our curriculum is so radically different than other schools in terms of our focus on making sure you can actually do the skills, which is a thrill for me because I need people who can do the skills so that I can represent them to clients. So the skills, that's a big part of getting a job. The focus was another important part for this student. He was really clear. When I first met him, he had quite an accent. And he focused on his language skills. So in the US, if you want to work here, most jobs, you will be speaking English. And it's really important to work on accent reduction if that is something that you have. And he did a great job. And he's now, when you meet him, you'll see that he has very great command of language. Wherever you are on the language spectrum, just know that's where you are. And you can actually get a job in the US where you speak Japanese, or you can decide, I want to work in big tech and speak English. Just decide, and then make sure that you're comfortable with your skill level and you can represent yourself to our clients. This student did 2 internships. So we're really focused on internships because that helps you improve your skills, and it also gets experience on your resume. He did, as I mentioned, he went to his employer through a contract agency, which is an advantage because they take care of the OPT paperwork. They represent you to the employer. They have a ton of work. And so you go sell yourself or represent yourself to the contract agency, and then they represent you to the client. So you don't have to do as much selling of yourself. He actually had some deep expertise in computational linguistics. So if there's something that you're already great at, make sure you think about using those skills. So I'll talk a bit more about students who use their past in their post-graduation jobs. But I would say the most common mistake I see, especially with MBAs, is they come and they say, I want to start over. I don't want to do anything I did before. And we always advise you to think about that and to think about the great investment you have and think about how to use those skills in a different way in combination with all of the great experiences you get at the school, because that for product need, for you as a product, more skills are better. So when we package you and we work with you, we will talk about your past. We'll talk about what you're doing at the school. We'll talk about your internship. We'll help you represent all of those things to an employer so that you can impress your employer as this student did. This is another student who was in San Francisco. She came to San Francisco. She had a deep background as a policy analyst. So she had some years of experience and she had done a number of internships. It's actually quite impressive. In Japan, she had done a number of internships. She was very focused on developing her skills before she came to the program. And then when she was in the program, she was a good student. From the beginning of the program, she told her advisor that she was going to go back to Japan. So she had made that decision and she was crystal clear about it. So to support her in doing a remote job search, her career advisor, helped her develop a very impressive LinkedIn. So I'm just showing you the top of it. If you looked at her more extensive biography, she's done a fantastic job of explaining who she is, what her skills are. She was very articulate about that. And because she was so articulate and clear about how she could help an employer, she was actually found by an employer who was doing headhunting on LinkedIn. So headhunting is when people reach out to you because of your skills and capabilities and who you are. That was how she got her job. And she worked for a very large consulting company, one of the top three, as I've come to understand, MBB. So she's at one of those big ones, and she's very successful. So the lesson from her experience is be clear. And the more clear you can be, and we'll help you get there. You don't have to do it all on your own. But if you can say what you can do on LinkedIn, employers have a much better chance of finding you. So we will work with you on that. You will get a lot of LinkedIn training. We bring in experts who teach LinkedIn courses across all of our campuses. We will help you master AI and create a LinkedIn profile so that it will get through the AI robots that are looking at all the LinkedIn profiles. So we're techie people ourselves. We're very intentional about this. We're very strategic. LinkedIn will be a big part of your future if you're looking for a job, and we will help you master that environment. This is a London student, and she came with a deep history in healthcare. She was also an extraordinary student. She really worked hard in the program. She was on the dean's list, so she was recognized for her academic capabilities. She was known by her campus as having a growth mindset, which is she was willing to try anything. And she got in a lot of the clubs, which give you as a student a lot of experience. So she was in the consulting club. She was in the project management club. She was in the entrepreneurs club. She was a leader on campus, and she had really, she's a powerhouse. I'll just say it that way. And she also worked on her language from the start because she knew she needed to get better. And her technique on working on the language, and I learned this from her advisor, was she listened to TED Talks and she transcribed them and then she read them back. So she was inspired by the best speakers in the world. And that was how she got better at her language capabilities, which I think is a very clever way to work on improving yourself. The lead for her job came from Hult, from our network. And she today works at another company, Accenture. So I think that she's a great example because she brings to you the message of be great at something and then get better. And in her case, that's what led to her being found and being hired back in Japan. Okay, this is an MPhil student in Boston. He's a graduate in Boston, excuse me. He also had an MBA when he came to the program. He worked very hard with his career advisor. The MPhils in Boston our career advisor is from Fidelity, and she ran HR in Boston for Fidelity for a number of years. She's now come to us, and she knows financial services inside out. She also has a really good network in Boston of colleagues who are in financial services. And she worked with this student to package himself, to represent himself on LinkedIn. also to understand where his strengths were. And he actually brought 12 years of experience as a financial advisor to the program. He had been a financial analyst for 3 years. He was very highly qualified in this form of finance, but he wanted to do something different. So he did the MFin, leveraging his prior skills, and through getting a job, he also speaks Japanese at his job, I should mention that. He's now qualified in his job for the OPT STEM, which is a 3-year visa in the US. I would say he's a good example of what many of our students do now. They come in one of the many STEM degrees we have, and that's an advantage for you, because a 3-year commitment to the US, in the employer's mind, that's a better thing, because they know if they hire you that you're going to stay, and they're going to be able to train you and leverage your skills for at least 3 years. And then, as I mentioned, for our data viz engineer at the beginning, they may sponsor you and you may stay longer, or you may go to one of their other geographies and work there. So 3 years, the 3-year STEM is definitely something you guys should think about, because it gives you more time to impress an employer. It gives you more time to learn in this country, and it gives you more time to build your career ladder. And often, once you get into a company, you get promoted from within. So impressing your employer over a long period of time is always a good thing. And that's what this gentleman is up to now. Now, I'm just going to quickly go through some job search tips and things that you can consider as you're making your plan for if you go to the US for this market. So the first one I want to mention is back to you as product me, and all the skills and capabilities. To be frank, the Japanese language for us Americans is really hard, and it's very difficult for us. And so there are not very many American Japanese speakers. So your language in this country is an advantage. So you need to think about, again, skills, product me. There are companies that need Japanese speakers, and you may decide you don't want to do that, but I'm bound to recommend it to you, because people get jobs where they have high skills and there are not a lot of other people that have the skills, and Japanese is actually an asset. And so I know that you all are fluent in English and that's your future, but I would encourage you to consider the opportunities available to you. So we work with a US recruiting firm who is trying to place bilingual people in this market and other markets. So we tell our students about that if they don't already know about it. And I'd encourage you to look at that. We also encourage our students to go to career fairs for Japanese speakers. And so we publish the ones that we know about. This one is in LA. Our students are going down to LA. I think that looking for work in both languages is always a good thing. And then I told you we would help you master LinkedIn. And that means also understanding how LinkedIn works. So I'm showing you the back end of LinkedIn here, the job part of it, not the profile part where you present yourself. So we will help you reverse engineer your job search. So as you've seen, I've highlighted for our Japanese students, why don't we find jobs where that skill that you have, in addition to your MBA, in addition to your MBAT, let's see what there is out there for you. And currently there are a couple hundred jobs on LinkedIn that say that skill is needed. And as you can see, the applicant pool is low. So as I mentioned before, having lots of skills and not having lots of competition for that job, that's a nice combination, because for sure, one of those two applicants is going to get that job. So your chance of getting that job in that court, 50%. So pretty fantastic odds versus applying at Google, where actually the Google percentages are it takes a couple times to get into Google, and it's about 4% if you would go directly in. If you went through a contract agency, your probability is much higher, which is why we tell people go through contract, but 50% probability of getting a job is just fantastic. You know, I'd love to have that. So that's a way that you can think about this market if this is the market you want to be in. And this actually, an IT security associate consultant is a very high paying job. And so I mentioned it here. It's in a very large company, and there are 7 people that want that job. So you're 1 out of 7. So I'd rather be 1 out of 7 in that market than 1 out of 10,000 at, you know, a big tech company, if it works out that way. So part of getting a job and why our rates are so high is because we are strategic about job search. And as you may have heard, I came from Silicon Valley. I was a strategy consultant and a venture capitalist. I think about you guys analytically and how to build channels to market for you so that you're going to get what you want. So we're going to work with you at a really strategic level so that you achieve your aspirations, whatever they are, whatever market. There's other things at Hult. So this is a piece of technology that we brought in. All of your career assets, everything you need to do at Hult is on My Career. Some of you will choose to do your job search at night or on the weekend. So you need to have access to career assets on the weekend. We have a number of technology tools that help you perfect your persona, your resume, your LinkedIn. Handshake is a job board. And when you get here, you can also, Handshake and LinkedIn are 2 fantastic job boards. Both of them have jobs for Japanese speakers, if that's what you're interested in. We link you out to third-party content, so blogs and things that would be helpful for you. The internship and visa information can be accessed here. And we have a couple hundred US internships a year, a couple hundred in the summer, and then another couple hundred in the second degree, the dual degree. And we really advise you to do that. And so this would be your resource for that. There's teaching videos. There's booking with advisors. And as I mentioned, you can work with anybody. I would suggest in San Francisco, the people here are experts on this market, but other advisors are open to you. And we have hiring events and at a global level. So great resource for you. Most schools don't do this. So we want to be efficient with your time. And we also know that you may be executing a global search. So we use technology to help us help you better. The US. This is a fantastic market. I want to give you a couple tips, and I've said these throughout, but I want to come back to them here. In the US, any international student needs to be an expert. So I've emphasized throughout this chat the way other students chose to make themselves experts. So think about how you're an expert today, or you want to become one at the school. So thinking about yourself in a focused way is going to help you compete better against other people in the market that are also aspiring to get new jobs. Consider your language and decide if your language is an asset you want to use. I've mentioned that Americans are not capable of speaking Japanese. And so you have an advantage there over Americans. That might be something you want to do, or you might say, that's not for me. And I really want to have an all-American job speaking English, and that's fine too. Just remember, it's there for you if you need it. I would say do the STEM analytics. So it gives you the 3-year visa extension. 3 years is better than 1. And the analytics skills are in high demand by employers today and in the future. So when you leave the school and you start your career, you will leave us with a job, but we will encourage you to think about not just that job, but the next 10 years of work. Analytics will only become more and more important. So pick skills that are going to be in high demand in the future that represent the future, which I believe is a digital economy. Make sure you're skilled in those. Focus your search strategy and then work with your career advisors. So our data viz engineer found me on day 2. He said, I want to talk to you. I'm like, great. Okay, let's go talk. And then his personal career advisor and I worked together with him to make sure that he was successful. So find your career advisor will probably find you, but meet with that person early and often. You'll be introduced to your advisor the first week of school, and get some one-on-one time with that person early and start thinking about your plan. The last thing I want to mention to you is I'm from Silicon Valley. I built my whole career here. As I mentioned, I was in strategy and technology, building technology companies. This is just a fantastic market. And going to markets where there is a lot of work is a good thing if you're a job seeker. So Silicon Valley is a very compressed market. It's a big market. Even during COVID, when most of the economy went into shutdown and didn't grow, Silicon Valley was the only place in the world that still had positive growth. And that's just the nature of things here. So it's been a growth economy for many years. It's going to be growth. And in growth is opportunity. And so you always want to find places where demand is high. That doesn't mean you have to stay in Silicon Valley. I have students going to Austin, Texas, which is a tech hub. They're going to Denver. They're going to Miami for fintech. They're going to New York for fintech and for technology and CPG. So there are many good markets in the United States. I would just encourage you to think about your future in terms of available market, in terms of jobs. And Silicon Valley is large and growing by any data you look at, as is the state of California, now the fourth largest country. If you measured California against GDP, fourth largest country in the world. So it's just a big economy. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of opportunity. It's a very progressive state. And we love entrepreneurial go-getter types, which is the type of people that come to Hult. So I'm concluding my remarks. I will turn it back to our colleagues here and answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Catherine. So I'd like to ask some detailed questions from me at first. So you mentioned the program, the greatness of the program, and we know many well-known famous US schools, but I very much agree that Hult program is very practical and constantly evolving. And for example, business analytics is now one of the very popular master's degree in the US, and many schools have established the program, Master of Business Analytics, but we recognize that Hult was a pioneer in the Master of Business Analytics. So I'm interested in how are you keeping up with very recent career trends, and how are you building the program at Hult?
Okay, I'm going to tell you a little story. I'm going to share a personal moment. About 7 years ago, I'm a technical person. I'm from Silicon Valley. I saw all these jobs for R and Python. And I went to my CEO and I said, look, we need to get analytics jobs because we're seeing so much employer demand. And at that point in time, my boss, the CEO, believed me. And he was like, well, that's interesting. Why don't you go bring me a proposal? But that was a time when nobody else at Hult was talking about business analytics. And I fought for it because I knew that if you guys got those skills, you would be employable. And so that tradition continues. My mission at Hult is to make sure you guys have jobs. If people go to business school and they don't get jobs, you make no impact on the world. And I'm about impact. So I continue to go back to I'm a peer to the global academic team, and I tell them what employers want. And we work together to make sure the curriculum meets the needs of employers. That has led to specializations, which is also something you can do. So that you get those expert skills in certain areas. I am an avid reader, as are many others, about economic news, technology trends. And so this school is full of people like us who are educational reformers who want you guys to learn relevant, current things that you'll get hired for. So, for example, ChatGPT. How are you going to use ChatGPT in your career? I'm working on how am I going to use ChatGPT to help you get a job faster. So I think if you go to Harvard, they're probably not going to ask you that. So we just really try to stay relevant, up to date. Our practitioners, our professors are from industry. So on the tech side, they're out there doing AI, they're figuring out what's going on. So we're infused with constant learning and constant relevance. This is very unusual for a school. We're a school of business people building a school that will build better business people, because that's our focus. So I'm really proud of what Hult does, and we're focused on relevant, pragmatic skilling. And I will say one more thing. You have to be able to pass the coding test to get an interview. So we make sure that you can. So in business analytics, I'm working with the analytics profs all the time saying, this is what's coming. Make sure they can do this. Make sure they can do that. It's just, I just say the bottom line, it's a business school that wants to build fantastic business people. And we're just dedicated to that. I hope that helps.
Thank you so much. That was so impressive. And the next question for me is about the English language skill. I'm so impressed by the remarkable progress that students who are not good at English, especially Japanese, Japanese and international students, but they are showing in their English very remarkable progress in their English skills. So what kind of English training in terms of the career interview or some internship? So what kind of English training are you doing?
That is a great question. So as you mentioned, you're impressed with the transformation.
Yes, literally transformation.
Yeah, it is a transformation. I mentioned the data viz engineer who met me on a second day, and his English was, it was early. He was not yet proficient. And so one of the best things that students do is they practice, and everybody gets better. Like our current class that came in September, oh, they are so fantastic now. And part of the way you get better is you just do English. And so you have lots of chances to present in your class. You're in teams. There's probably 100 languages spoken at Hult right now, by the way. We encourage all of our students, leave your native language behind and just do English, because you'll get better faster. So I would say that's the important practice makes perfect. We are not an English language school. So in careers, we don't teach English, but we will give you feedback on your interview approach. I'm looking at some AI technology that I think will be available within your time frame, where you can practice with a robot and get advice back on accent reduction. But as a school, to be frank, it's not our mission to teach English. It's our mission to do English. And by doing English, like any other skill at Hult, you get better, and you get better really fast. I would advise you to take as many opportunities as you have to practice, to have conversations, to make presentations. Just do English, and you'll be amazed at how fast you're amazing.
Thank you. Yes, so many Japanese students are very anxious about their English communication skills, but Hult does offer the very practical English training. So that's why Hult is very popular among the Japanese students, I think.
Well, I just want to say everybody else is speaking a different language when they get to Hult. Mm-hmm. Nobody has mastered English. And so it's not like the Japanese students are any different than the rest of the students who are all learning English at the same time and practicing and getting better. I have mentioned your language because it's a competitive advantage for you in this country. So our Japanese students forget about that, and you might get a job faster by using your language. I will say the same thing to our Spanish speakers who get jobs faster, or actually we have some students from South Korea who got their jobs faster by being interested in speaking their native language. So it's just something to consider.
Thank you. That would be very encouraging. So the next is the very basic question. So what kind of career support how does offer to student? I think you mentioned earlier, but could you let us know the very detail? For example, do they provide referrals, or do they offer resume advice and interview preparation and such kind of stuff?
Yeah. All of that. Yes. The answer is yes. The year is split into 4 phases. So it's called, you'll see this in your materials that you can get from the school. It's called the Career Roadmap, ROAD. So R is reflect. That's what you do when you first come, and you assess your skills, you take assessments, you figure out who you are. O is observe. So you need to go out and talk to alumni, talk to employers, get clear about who you want to be. A is activate. So that's actually your plan that we're working on with you. And D is drive. That's executing your career search. And under each one of those pillars are a number of programs that are there to support you. The way you will experience it is you will come to Hult, and in the first week, you will be working on your resume in a class. So before you do anything else, you're talking to my team, and we're working on that assessment with you. Who do I want to be? We're working on the resume, and I'm in there teaching you about LinkedIn. You won't do your LinkedIn, but you will become aware that it's a fantastic tool. That is followed. That week of intensive training is followed by one-on-one work with your advisor throughout the year. There are really good AI tools that allow you to refine your resume with AI, but you can also talk to your career advisor, or quite frankly, you can put your resume in ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT how to make it better, and you'd be surprised what you would learn. So there's all sorts of cool ways to learn, and I'm here to give you a portfolio of things that are going to help you get better. But quite frankly, we don't make you do anything. You decide which parts of the roadmap skilling you want to participate in. So you're going to go to this class, you'll be working with your advisor. By November, you should have a good resume, and you should be using our AI tools to make it a great resume. When you come back in January, you will be again in a mandatory class where we're going to redo your resume for the refinements that you learned about in November and December. You're going to do a targeted job search plan. You need to be ready to network and interview by the end of January, because in March, there is a career fair on campus. And in the summer, in June, that's internship season. So if you want to get an internship, you need to come out when you return for January term, you need to come out of January with a solid resume, with a plan to get your internship. You need to be out interviewing. We will support you, but you need to go out, because there's much, much, much more work outside the school than the people that come to the school, because such a wide geography. And quite frankly, with all this great technology, companies don't come as often as they did before, because it's more efficient to interview you online. So you will go into the spring term looking for your internship. And then in the summer, this is where it gets like super tactical, because you'll be looking at jobs on the job board. You'll be getting job offers from employers. You're working one-on-one with your career advisor on things like, how do I master this interview? What are the questions I'm going to get? How do I represent myself better? How do I negotiate salary, which can be challenging for students who haven't had to negotiate before. So in the summer, there's services to support you in that last mile, in that going to market. We have some fantastic career materials, which you can get through Shinpei, that talk about the roadmap. I could do like 5 hours on it. So I've just had to go through it very quickly, because there's a lot of stuff that happens during the year that you need. I will also mention that alumni are a tremendous resource at Hult. We're a different kind of business school. The people we attract to Hult want to be at Hult. They love Hult. and they come back and contribute. So we have alumni on campus throughout the year, and that starts in your first week of school. So you have the opportunity in your first week to be talking to alumni, if you're in San Francisco, they'll be from Silicon Valley, who have made it in Silicon Valley. And so we're giving you those opportunities as fast as you're ready for them. So there's a lot going on. And Shinpei, if you need more information from us, let us know. But I would say, to some extent, the proof is in the pudding, as we say in the US. We're delivering really great market-ready talent, people ready to interview, because we do have such a robust set of tools, set of experiences, fantastic career advisors. It all goes together to help you be great.
Thank you. It's so helpful. And so this is my last question. Shinpei-san, I'm sure Shinpei-san knows quite well. Japanese students especially think of their age in a very negative way. For example, some people have a bias that it is difficult to change jobs after the age of, for example, 30 or 35 or so. Could you give us some feedback on this matter? Especially,
sure,
You want to go, Shinpei? You want to
sure.
answer
Let me start first. So yeah, it's a very common question from Japanese because it's very, let's say, organized society, very typical Asian society, right? So they are very worried about getting to US, especially they are like middle age, like 30, 40, sometimes over 50 years old. But the Hult never discriminate by the ages or where they're from or their backgrounds. So that's a good thing. And getting job in the United States, for example, when I was studying Hult, my classmates were 50 or even 60. And then he was running job, even he's in the US now. So it doesn't matter as long as you can, like Catherine said, as you can demonstrate what you learned during the Hult and how is your network within the United States. So I would say age doesn't matter. It doesn't matter in Japan. So that's why they are very worried. But they need to get out if they are very want the challenge. That's my answer.
thank you.
I would say age is an advantage because in this market, we don't have those same worldviews about age. The first thing I'd say is employers hire skills. Older people often have more experience and skills, and an employer just wants to get the job done. So if there's an age bias, I would say it might be in favor of more experienced people versus somebody who's a college grad and has never done an internship, because they don't yet have skills, they don't have wisdom. If you read about the future of work, we're going to be working in very flat organizations. Google has 5 layers max. So you need to be competent in what you do. You need to be able to perform well on a self-managing team, no bosses. So we are not higher, we're flat. So you need to have the personal skills to be able to work in a very fluid organization. And often people with more experience are better at that. So that's the first thing I would say. The second thing I would say is there's going to be a lot of change in the next 50 years of work. And the people that are successful will be able to reinvent themselves and be able to keep up with the skilling that's coming all the time. And those people, whether they're 50, 60, 70, which are the 70-year-olds are coming back into the market now because there's such a labor gap, we're going to hire people based on what they can do. And so I think I understand it's a different worldview and a different way of thinking, but I think for people with skills, it's a tremendous advantage because, as Hult is made for those who do, because employers care what you can do, and that's how you're measured. So I would encourage anybody who's had experiences that wants to come to the program to reflect on your experiences, and they're probably an advantage for you. And somebody in the United States might need something that you've done before. And you'll transform when you come to the school, but age is an advantage, not a disadvantage.
Thank you for a very great statement. So I would encourage the very mid-career professionals to apply to Hult to get a job at the US. So let's move on to the questions from audience. So, okay. So the first question is, how many career advices do you have? What kind of advice will they give to the students?
So right now on my team globally, there are 40 people, which is one of the larger teams at Hult. There are career advisors across the programs. So as I mentioned, for the MFin in Boston, the advisor came from financial services. She has a network in financial services. She knows the business, and she would advise her students about the different options in financial services and how to prepare and present themselves for those options. For the MBAN program, we have 2 coaches who are actually consultants who are business analytics people themselves. They did AI at Pratt & Whitney, and they have made a career change themselves and are the coaches that work with our MBANs, because as business analytics, they understand the business inside out. And they are here to give you an insider view on where the jobs are. So those are 2 different types of people that you might be working with here. In the executive MBA, we have executive coaches. So we have 13 executive coaches right now who have worked with CEOs. And because some of the people in the executive MBA are extremely senior and they want to be another CEO, they want to do CEO things again, we've brought in the appropriate resource for them. So I try to match my coaches against the programs so that we have people that are not just vanilla coaches. Like other schools have people that have master's degrees in coaching, and they're going to talk about your feelings. And I love talking about feelings. It's important, but I'm about you getting a job. So I'm very pragmatic, and I bring in pragmatic people. We have a number of headhunters on our staff. So a headhunter is somebody that buys talent, goes out and gets somebody, like one of the students I mentioned. Headhunters know the way employers think. And for us, it's an asset to have a headhunter on our team representing you to employers, because they know exactly what you need to do and how to penetrate the employer's psyche. We also have in London, we have a former headhunter for BCG. So we're eclectic, we're pragmatic, like everything at Hult. We're trying to help you get to the do part of it. So we bring in resources that we think are the best to help you get there. So I hope that answered your question. It's we have a lot of different types of people in our organization, but the end game is we're about jobs, we're about employment. We want to make sure you're successful.
Thank you. Okay, so the next question is, so how often, what percentage of how students find jobs in the US after MBA? So could you show us the previous slide again?
Oh, you're going to test my PowerPoint skills here and go back to the beginning.
Yeah.
If I can possibly do that.
I think they are the figure in the slides.
Yeah, it's 49%. That's what was on the slide. Can I not go back to the beginning and just stay here? Okay. So it's 49% last year. I've seen it higher. So it's been between 49% and, as I mentioned, 60s. 1 year was 63. It really depends on where people want to work. I would say that's the biggest thing. Sometimes people go to other campuses, the people that don't want to go home might go somewhere else. They might go to London. So it just depends on who's in the US. You have to be in the US to get a US job. You can't go to London and qualify for that 1 year OPT. If you go to London, you have to come back to the US and be in the US for the whole summer before you do your second degree. So it depends. I think, there are some people that go back to family business that don't want to work in the US. There are some people that I mentioned before, That second student, she had no intention of working in the US. So she's in the 50% not working in the US. She was never looking for a job in the US. So I wouldn't, you can't look at the 49% as that's my chance. What you can look at it is reliable and true reporting. I'm required to statistically report what happened. And I can't give you all the context. I can't tell you how many people for the 49%, maybe 50% wanted to look in the United States and 49% ended up staying. So it's a very relative number. I think under that is, what's it going to be for me? And do I have a chance? And the answer is absolutely. Absolutely. You can work in the US. I see hundreds, I've seen thousands of people do it. And you have to work really hard. It doesn't just, you have to work hard from the beginning. The first student I talked to you about, that student worked hard. Day 2, he meets me. Day 3, he's working with his advisor. Day 4, he's studying. You have to work for it. People that work for it succeed. So I hope, I don't want to be, I believe, I've seen it a lot of times, but I don't want you to think that it's a freebie. You can come here and automatically you're going to get a job. That's not how it works. You have to earn that job in the United States. You earn it with 2 things. You've got the skills in the program, and we have a fantastic program, and you went and you executed a good job search, supported by me, my staff, people here to help make sure you succeed.
Thank you. And the next question is, I think you mentioned earlier, but there is a question. How often are campus career fair at Hult?
So we have 2 forms of, there's lots of different ways employers can get engaged to hire you. So during COVID, the digital recruiting revolution accelerated. And there are many employers, IBM is one, where they don't visit campuses because it's so efficient to recruit online. So that's why I've emphasized LinkedIn. LinkedIn is your portal into the world. So there are a number of employers that are going to post on a job board. They're going to have their own virtual career fairs. They're going to have, they might work with some other tech companies to do career fairs. So I would say there's a minority of the employers are going to come to the campus. We do have, because they're trying to get talent across the whole country, and because they've figured out how to do digital recruiting, and they're using AI to find people and stuff like that. The employers that come, they come in 2 ways. So there's a career fair usually in the fall. There's a career fair in the spring. It has on campus, it has virtual. So we have to operate in a hybrid environment because that's what our clients, employers, want to do. So there are those 2 opportunity points. And then we have employer spotlight. So employers that are very motivated will ask for their own time, and they'll be during the spring, it could be 1 a week or more, where an employer will either, most often they present from their headquarters, wherever that is, through some virtual, into your classroom virtually. And then they set up virtual interviews. Some of the time, like a local employer would come on campus. So there are these employer spotlights where you can get up close to the employer. A very common way to get a job is to network your way into the employer. And working with our alumni, you can ask for referrals into an employer. So a referred person probabilistically has a much higher chance of getting a job than somebody who goes in cold, who applies cold. So for that reason, the alumni are on campus from the beginning of the year. And that's your opportunity. If we might have somebody from Google next year, you should talk to that person and say, this is what I do. I want to work at Google. What's your advice? Can you help me? And it's in the United States, it's a beneficial relationship for both sides because alumni get paid if you make it in their company. And the payment can be $5,000 to $10,000. So although the alumni are big-hearted and they want to help you, it's commercially advantageous for them to help you. So I would strongly recommend that you consider alumni a portal into an employer, because that's much less work than going out and meeting a new employer. And then, as I said, for the data viz engineer, he went through a contract agency. So because many employers do virtual recruiting, and because they prefer the contract channel, we will introduce you to those contract companies. And if the contract company that our student worked for was representing a number of Silicon Valley companies. So you may not meet the employer. You may be represented to that contract, to that employer, through a third-party agency that sells you in. So I would say this is we're not a hierarchical market. Age is not a problem for us. However, we're a very fluid, flexible, multi-faceted market, and there's lots of ways to get a job. And employers coming onto campus all at once to hire people from the American way of thinking, that's kind of like a 1980s thing. It doesn't happen that much because employers have moved on, and we have so much need for talent in this country that they do things in other ways that are more efficient for them because they have a limited budget to find people. And virtual recruiting is actually more cost effective, more efficient, and allows US employers to bring in more diversity. So they really prefer it for that reason. That's not to say, there are plenty of employers that come, but be open-minded. Think about who do you want to meet and set your sights on what employers are the right ones for you. And then how are you going to get to them? And I think that's it's just a better way to go about job search. Don't be passive and wait for somebody to show up. Own it. Decide what you want and go out and get it, and we'll help you.
Thank you. So the next is the very general question. So generally, in which month commencement ceremony takes place in the US?
August.
Okay.
For the first degree, it's August. If you do the 2 degrees, the dual degrees, it's the end of March for your second degree.
Mm-hmm. Okay, sure. So the next question is the dual degree programs at Hult. Is it still the case that many of Hult students are employed in Silicon Valley because they are studying business analytics as well as MBA? What do Silicon Valley recruiters think of Hult's dual degree programs?
Well, that's a good question. Yes, a lot of business analytics students are working in Silicon Valley because there's huge demand. Anywhere where you have a digital economy, which is most places now, you have data, and there's a lot of data, and businesses run off of data now. So you need analytic people. I think the proof is in the pudding. Recruiters hire people who can do the work, and Hult people can do the work. So recruiters are they're very tactical salespeople. They just need to fill the spot. And so they want to find people who can do the job, and Hult students can. I will also mention that in Silicon Valley, there are a lot of startups, and startups are voracious consumers of talent. And often you can have a faster growth career working for a startup or a mid-market company than going to a big brand. And so there's a company on here called othe, which is a mid-market CRM. They're like 300 to 400 million in size. And we have 16 alumni there right now, and they just keep coming back. They come back every year and hire, a couple people. There's another company, which is kind of a strategy venture firm called Mind the Bridge. Same thing. They come back every year, hire at Hult because we have the skills that they need to drive their business. So I'm very confident that our program is well matched to what employers need. And, that's a big part of the challenge in getting a job. You got to have the skills. So I think our stats are the representation that it's all working.
Thank you. So that's all for the Q&A session with our audience. So could you give us some comments and remarks, Shinpei-san?
Sure. So first of all, thank you again, Catherine. I know it's very super early in the morning in San Francisco, but yeah, I know you are very passionate and you can talk about the career maybe all day.
Sorry.
It's okay. Yeah, we really appreciate it. And we also want to invite you to probably the next maybe webinar. We will have the maybe next topic. But for now, I think I also wanted to talk about our next deadline to apply for our program. Can you see outside? Okay. So yeah, if you are interested in applying for Hult, our next deadline is coming up on February 28th. So this month. If you want to have the career session or advice, you can also apply from Alpha Advisors. In that way, you can have the $5,000 global season grant scholarships offered. It's guaranteed if you can apply from Alpha Advisors. So if you listen to the webinar and then if you wanted to work in the US, if you want to have the global careers, please try to apply for our program. And then I believe you have a bright future, Hult. So yeah, this is my closing remark. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So we are actually offering the application support to Hult International Business School. Yes, so sorry, can I? So the next deadline is February 28th, and we does offer the great support to Hult application. And so if you are interested in getting into Hult and get job offer at US, please come to us and get free consultation. So it is a very big chance to get job offer at US for international students, and Hult has a great program and also job consulting and job executive coaching. So if you are interested in get free consulting from our website. So thank you, Catherine and Shinpei-san. Thank you very much for the very great presentation today.
Great. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.